Hello and welcome to the Profitable Baker podcast, the show for bakers who mean business. I'm Annie Bennett, founder of the Home Baking Business Academy, and every week I'll be sharing practical lessons, mindset shifts, and inspiring stories from bakers who are building businesses they love. Because success in this industry isn't about who bakes the fanciest cakes, it's about who builds the strongest business foundations. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Profitable Baker podcast with me, Annie Bennett. Now, this episode is going to be all about visibility, but I'm really pleased today because I have a guest with me, my first guest episode. And the reason I have this guest is because she has had an amazing visibility journey, particularly over the last year. So I'm really delighted to introduce Ziggy Li, the flowering baker, to our podcast. Welcome, Ziggy.
Thank you, Annie. I'm so excited to be here. I just can't wait to share with everyone the journey and how it can, help people in the community as well. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Now, what we need to know first, of course, is a little bit of your background. Tell us how you started your business, when you started your business, and a little bit of a background about the flowering baker and what you do.
Okay, so I wasn't a cake designer before. I'd come from a teaching background. I used to be a science teacher, teaching 12 to 16-year-olds, biology, chemistry, and physics. And so going into cake business is completely new to me. I don't have a business background whatsoever, and numbers are the bane of my life at the moment. But so yeah, I have a teaching background, and my kids were really young, and I decided actually I'm going to pause that career and be a full-time stay-at-home mum. And we were living abroad at the time, and coming back to the UK, I had to sort of rethink whether I wanted to go back into teaching. It would have been a full-time job. I'd see other children more than my own, and I thought, actually, that's not what I want. And towards the end of our time when we were living abroad in Germany at the time, I thought, well, I was dabbling with cake. I was playing with cake, and I was really missing British cake, actually. And so I was making my kids' birthday cakes, like with fondant. I did guitar cakes, I did stadium cakes, Elsa cakes, Harry Potter cakes, and all that kind of stuff. And, sharing it with friends and family. And I really fell in love with being creative. And so that's sort of how me dabbling into baking started. So coming back to the UK, I was like, right, okay, I made a conscious decision to not go back into teaching. Then what am I going to do? And my husband said, well, why don't you try and make cakes as a business? So I thought, okay, cool, I'll make cakes, I'll try. And you know how Facebook kind of stalks you at what you like to watch, right?
Yeah.
And this video of someone piping buttercream flowers I was just hooked on it. It was like love at first sight. And I thought, this is something that I'd really like to try and do. My kids actually don't eat fondant. I've spent all this time and money on it, and it just goes to waste.
Yeah.
So I decided actually I'm going to maybe try buttercream, because you can tweak the sugar levels and it's maybe smoother, tastes nicer, and they did eat it. So I had to change completely from doing fondant. It was only cheap supermarket stuff, none of the nice Saracino stuff, but it was just that. And then I went into trying buttercream flowers, and I remember doing this. The tools that you use is a flour nail, but I just tried it on the bottom of a wine glass because it has the same effect. So just playing around in my kitchen, and I thought I'd quite like this. And I actually love gardening as well, and I had just lots of plant pots in my garden, and I thought cake and plants and flowers, that's basically how the flower and baker blossomed. I just loved doing that and being creative and making things look pretty realistic but also edible, and so that's how it sort of began. And like with setting up business, you have to find out the legal side of stuff. So how do you set up a business? How do you get registered? And actually, Annie, your two books, which I've got it in front of me, actually. It's the Home Baking Business Handbook, right, and the Home Baking Business Hygiene record book. Is that right? I think I said it right.
Yes.
I bought both of those very early on, and they've been such a big help. And it's those books actually, especially the hygiene one, where I achieved a 5-star rating because I used it, and my EHO was dead. Well, she was like, oh, I've seen this somewhere else as well, and it's really really. I mean, on the comments of my inspection, she said no issues, recording absolutely perfect. So yeah, if you're listening and you're thinking, right, you need to get your hygiene rating to a 5-star, get Annie's book.
I'll put the link in the comments,
yes,
in the notes. Yes.
just been incredibly helpful. And I still dabble into those books, especially the handbook one, as I'm growing my business. And so that's how it started, probably 2024, February 2024, I officially registered as a business. And then about this time last year, I had like no orders whatsoever for 6 months. And I thought, right, is this the right career for me? But in that time, I found out you could do all sorts of things like get involved in styled shoots, relook at your pricing, thinking about business strategy and what it is that I wanted to get out of this business. So in that sort of 6 months, even though I had no orders, it really made me think about where I wanted to drive this, because you are your own boss, so you can call the shots.
Yes, absolutely.
And then probably earlier this year, and this is how visibility really propelled me. This one opportunity, with it came lots of other opportunities which I would have never dreamed of. So November 2024, I went to the Cake International show, and I'd never been before, not even heard the show until probably 2 months before. I went along and was blown over by, what was on display, the demos there, things that you could get at show prices, who doesn't love a good deal, right? And I was just like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And then a couple of months later, I saw on Facebook that a cake designer had nominated herself for a category at the Cake International Awards. Mm-hmm. So I thought, actually, her work is, on a par with mine. I thought, well, if she's going to go for it, well, I thought I'll put my imposter syndrome to the side. I thought I'll just go for it. What have I got to lose? Nobody knows me. So I'll just do it, right? Just tap in my details and off it goes. And then get as many people to vote for me in 2 categories. And I thought I'll just give it a try. What have I got to lose? Yeah. And then lo and behold, I became a finalist in both of those categories, Flower Artist of the Year and Rising Star of the Year. And because I was then a finalist, I was shortlisted for the judges to then judge my website, my social media. They know about me. Mm. So because they know about me, there weren't many buttercream artists, flower artists there. The organisers, Melanie Underwood, she said, oh, Ziggy, would you like to do a demonstration? And I was like, yes, please. I mean, didn't really know what was quite involved apart from showing people. But she said, yeah, would you like to come to the Renshaw Pro Theatre to demonstrate? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, I was just shell-shocked. I couldn't believe it. And this is the same Pro Theatre stage as last year's Bake Off winner, Georgie Grasso. She was going to be demoing at that stage, and to think that I'd be on that same stage, maybe not at the same time, but on that same stage was absolutely crazy, alongside people like Sandro Farmhouse as well from Bake Off, and some other really fantastic cake artists like Katrina as well. It's just crazy. So that imposter syndrome being put aside, I put myself forward, got people to vote for me, meant I became a finalist. But then what came of that was I'd also then networked with other cake designers and suppliers. Yeah. And one of the things that I was going to mention was about, when you're posting something that you use products like coloring or icing, then always try and tag the supplier that you use, like PME, Vanilla Valley, Sugar Flare, Pro-Gel, anything. And I've been tagging Vanilla Valley for quite some time. Yeah. And I won one of their Cake of the Month competitions. And because they also know me, they then also contacted me to say, could you provide a demo for us at the Vanilla Valley stand, which I also agreed to. So from that then came two demos, being a finalist, and then came two demos, and then being able to be connected, with other cake artists from around the world, and a possible, I think, from that Cake International show, another company and watched my demo who provide like natural food coloring, and they said, Ziggy, would you like to become an affiliate with us? So, from that, it sort of snowballed in a good way with
Yeah.
loads of other, it opened lots of other opportunities for me. And I would have never in a million years dreamt that just me nominating or put myself forward for two categories would have gotten to me, gotten to where I am today. It's just absolutely crazy. I'm still pinching myself. Still, I was dead nervous doing the demo, but it was just incredible. But yeah, working on visibility and just giving yourself the opportunity to do it.
Yes, it is, isn't it? A lot of bakers, have that imposter syndrome. Oh, I don't want to put myself out there. But you're absolute proof of, well, why not? Just go for it. What have you got to lose?
Yeah,
Um, and visibility in itself may not, directly bring you orders and bookings, but it leads to other things, which leads to other things, which gets you seen. And the
that's
more you are seen, as you have found out, the more opportunities you have. And then you just get a reputation, don't you? I mean, we were talking before we started recording about, someone who found your website, and is looking for a wedding booking because they love your work and they love what you do. Um, so yeah, the visibility thing is really, really important, isn't it?
important, and that's how you're going to get the orders. I mean, although I didn't bring a trophy home, being a finalist and being able to shout out about it on your website or on your social media gives you credibility. I mean, obviously, customers won't know what Cake International is or what this competition is or what this award means, but actually, for you to actually state that in the first place
Yeah.
shows your potential customers or your current customers actually this is a cake maker or a baker who has some credit, a certain standard that is recognized in their industry. So absolutely, visibility is really important.
And how has that helped your imposter syndrome, Ziggy?
I'm still working on it. I think, oh gosh, it's a daily battle, isn't it? I think it's very,
Yeah.
that sort of fight or flight survival mode always kicks in. Am I good enough in the comparisonitis, that you've mentioned in your other um, groups before, where there's always for me that doubt, that anxiety. Am I, can I do it? And for me, I've proved to myself anyway that you can get far or further than if you've done nothing about it
Yeah.
in the first place.
Yeah. It's to do with being proactive, isn't it? I mean, I say this all the time. If your strategy is just to sit and hope that something
Yeah.
happens, hope that
Hmm.
someone sees your post and books, hope
Yeah.
that, that's not going to get you anywhere, is it? You've got to be,
No,
as you say, tag all these people into your post. You've got nothing to lose.
nothing to lose.
Used, Renshaw sugar paste or Pro Gel colors, tag them in,
Tag
because
them in.
as they did with you, they will start seeing the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
And also, and there's lots of magazines, aren't there, where, we'll feature you in our magazine, just, tag us in and we'll put you. I mean, I got a few cakes in magazines that way.
Yes. Yes.
And it's really good kudos, you
It
go
is
to
really. Yeah. I had
wedding fairs with the page from the magazine. I go, oh,
yes.
you're in a magazine. Oh.
Yeah, and this earlier this year, Prop Options they put a post out on their social media asking whether they were cake designers who were wanting to collaborate on a new product that they were launching, and I put myself forward thinking there's going to be millions of others. They probably won't pick me, but again, what have I got to lose? If I
Yeah.
don't try, then you won't know. And so I put myself forward, and they included me in their product launch, which was the spiral thing that they've
Oh,
got
yes. Yes.
again, and that's those photos from that launch. It was me and some about probably five other cake designers who used this spiral. Then got featured in county magazines, and I didn't know that. So again, it's like, oh, and now I can now add onto my, my website, featured in county
Yeah.
magazines, and it's just one of those things that, you know, it's just again leveraging on other audiences. Now prop options have used me, or Renshaw know about me, and if you tag them, then they'll, hopefully they'll put your post on in front of their audiences, and then people will look, and it gets you more traction, and then you're trying to win the algorithm, right? You're trying to
Yeah.
get more
Yeah.
traction. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, it wasn't just sort of the social media and online things as well that you were visible in. Tell us some other ways that you've managed to get yourself visible out there.
Yeah, so I decided I'm going to try and do like wedding fairs or shows, and I'd never done it before. This year, I tried something local to me. It's called the Artisan Show, and it's just sort of artisanal craftsmanship. And I thought I'd bring my cakes, and the organizer said that not anyone like me, so they really wanted me on there, and it was a bit of a baptism of fire. It
Yeah.
was a lot of prep, um, but through that, people then said they actually came to my little stall and said, "Oh, I've seen you on Facebook," because obviously I'd been posting on Facebook. I'm not saying I had loads of orders from it, but people seeing you then in person at a fair or a show will then go, I've met this cake designer. She's really nice, really lovely, really helpful. And that makes an impression on somebody's mind. And so when they want a cake or a wedding cake, or someone at the artisan show said, "Oh well, I know so and so is getting married. My daughter's getting married next year, and I've got from that, two wedding orders from that, which I didn't think I'd get, because it wasn't a wedding show; it was just a show for any sort of craftsmanship. So doing shows really does help, because I think for most of us, we don't have a physical shop or a
That's
studio where
right.
people come in,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
we all work from home. So for me, putting yourself out in at a wedding showcase or a wedding fair or a high street market fair, that is your shop front. People get to see you in person, ask questions, they can taste your products or even buy your products. And for me, I think that is key, because there's so much stuff bouncing around on social media. That face-to-face connection is unbeatable. Um,
It's the whole know, like, and trust thing that we're
it
always
is
talking about.
absolutely,
But
yeah,
it's absolutely in practice, isn't it? You meet someone and chat to them, and you've instantly got that connection that you can't get online. You can't get that online, can you?
no, you
So
cannot,
it's
man.
it's the in-person things,
Mm,
they get to as many as is possible, and possible for your business, because making those connections, because as you say, you never know who knows someone whose brothers, sisters, aunties getting married
yeah,
next year,
it
and
is so
the
true.
referrals do happen that way, don't they?
Yes, it's
Mm.
amazing. Yeah. I'll give a little tip. When you go to these shows, just check whether they've been well advertised, because if they have, then you're going to get the footfall, you're going to get the traffic come through, you'll get people more likely to then get some sales from it. Because I went to a Christmas market recently, it wasn't well advertised, and I ended up taking a lot of my cakes home, which is a real shame. But
No,
yeah, just
that's a
check.
very good tip, because you
Yeah,
have to be a little bit selective. You have to do your research with
yeah,
these things, don't you?
definitely. So yeah, don't. And also, when you go to these shows, whether it's a wedding fair or a market on a high street or any other shows, you can even ask for a specific spot.
Okay, yeah.
Um, just say, could you put me in a well-lit area or in the middle of the row of the stalls? I mean, if you don't ask, you don't get. They can come around, turn around and say no, but actually you can ask whether it was, if it's possible to, stick me at the entrance or at the end, or I don't know, just make it work for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, because they'll literally put you anywhere. They don't really care about how much money you're going to make. The
Yeah,
organizers
they've
just
got
want
your
you in.
booking, so yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So just make it work for you. I think that's one tip I would advise. And I went to a wedding fair recently where I said, could you put me in a location where couples can imagine their wedding cake at this venue? So don't put me in the hallway. or a corridor, put me in a well-lit area where it's probably next to the ceremony room or something so that they can imagine. And they did. And it was absolutely fine.
That's a
Yes.
really, really good tip for a wedding fair. Yeah. Put me somewhere where the couples will imagine their cake to be. Brilliant. Love it.
Especially if there's another wedding cake maker as well. So yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a brilliant tip. Brilliant tip. So what other ways? Have you got any other
Yeah.
tips for
So
visibility?
styled shoots, right? I'd never heard of styled shoots before, but this is where when you see them on social media or in magazines where the whole venue is decorated like it looks like a real wedding.
Yeah.
But these events, they're called TFP, trade for print.
Yeah.
So everyone in sort of the wedding supplier vendor will offer their services for free in exchange for really professional photos or videos.
Mm.
So, and I joined a couple of Facebook groups, and they were called styled shoots or TFPs, where you can introduce yourself, or they'll be asking for, is there a cake maker in Leicestershire or in the Midlands or in London or in Scotland? And if you're in those areas, then,
Yeah.
get your name in. Basically, as soon as they post it,
Yeah.
just get your name in there and say, look, I'm a cake maker. I'm in Glasgow or wherever or London, and these are my cakes that I do. You can post some of your photos or your website or your Instagram handle or your Facebook handle, and they'll have a date roughly of when they'd like to have these shoots. So there'll be a shoot at a castle or a hotel or some country house, and this is the mood board. And all these suppliers will get together. You'll have like makeup artists, you'll have a model, groom, and bride, you'll have a dressmaker, and all these sorts of, suppliers, real suppliers who would have actually done a real wedding, come together, offer their services mostly for free in exchange for professional photos and videos, which you can then use on your social media or website. And if you use them on your social media, definitely tag the other suppliers because they can then put your stuff
Yes.
or whatever video or reel that you've created on their audiences. I mean, you've done the hard work, created the reel or the photos, and all they need to do is accept the collaboration or forward it on their stories. And again, that increases your traction, your visibility. Most people in that area, because it's a Glasgow shoot, for example, or a London shoot, will then go, oh, I'm looking for a makeup artist, and this makeup artist has worked with this cake designer. Oh, I might check this person out. And then you just never know where that leads
Yeah.
to. But by
Yeah.
putting yourself out there, it gives you that opportunity to be able to
Absolutely.
be.
I mean, but basically what you're doing, and I've done one of these, when I was baking, is you're actually tapping into all these suppliers' audiences
Mm,
because they will put their stuff on social media, and more often than not, they'll tag all the suppliers, as you say. Um, and then, their audience will go, oh yeah, cake maker. Oh, I haven't got a cake maker,
mm,
and
mm.
you that way, particularly if you then comment on any posts that they make and say, oh, what a lovely day we had, whatever it is, make yourself sound human, which I think a lot of suppliers don't. They make that mistake, don't they, of just being a sort of faceless brand.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. That's a really good tip
Yeah,
to.
and by working with other wedding vendors or suppliers, you'll get to know actually this is a really nice person to work with, not just for their services, but actually you've got that connection with them. You can maybe relate to them in life because you'll have a chat on the day of where you've come from, how long you've been doing this job for, and I think that really helps build a recommendation. I know a photographer who now would recommend the suppliers that they worked with from a shoot, and they recommend each other as well. Or couples got come to me for wedding photography, but they haven't found a cake. Can I recommend you? And it just that's how.
Word of mouth and referral. I mean, it works a little bit that way, doesn't it, with wedding fairs? If
Mm,
get to know the other suppliers. See, that's happened to me a few times. There'll generally be at least one florist at a wedding fair, at least one photographer, and those are the people that you need to talk to and connect with. And then you can have all sorts of connections and referrals and things that way as well, can't you?
it's brilliant. And even if you go into a wedding show, it's more likely to be held at a wedding venue. So find the events manager and just have 5 minute conversation. Look, this is what I do. This is my services. Do you have a recommended wedding cake supplier? And then if they say yes, you can ask whether you could be added onto that list. I mean, that rubbish Christmas market that I did, it was pretty pants.
Yeah.
I thought, well, I'm going to speak to the events manager. It was a golf club.
Mm.
So I spoke to the golf club events manager who does specifically for the wedding side, and I got chatting to her, and now she follows me on my Instagram. So it's again that they've met you in person, you've had the conversation, and sometimes you gauge whether it's a venue that you want to work with as well. But absolutely make the most of it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And am I right in thinking you are a recommended supplier at a venue near you?
It is. It's called Beaver Castle. It's stunning, that place. And I'd I was like, well, I'd email them to begin with, and then you get the normal automated response, and someone will call back you, or you've been referred to so and so, and they'll respond to you, but never get a response.
Yeah.
So again, I'm a kind of all in or all out person, and I called them up and I said, look, I've sent this email. Did you get it? Oh, I think we came across this email. They said, but then so I kept pushing, really, not in a forceful way, just sort of, wanted to follow it up until I got a definite no. And the events manager, the wedding coordinator, emailed to say they'd love to meet me and love to speak to me. So I bought in 2 display cakes I had sat in the fridge from a previous wedding showcase. I brought them along with me with some buttercream cupcakes. And I thought, with this sort of really high-end venue, um, they'd say, "Oh, thank you very much for coming. We'll contact you by email."
Yeah.
But by the end of it, they'd not even tasted my cakes. They said, "Oh, well, would you like to be added to the recommended list?" I was like, "Yes, please. Yes, please. That's what I'm here for."
Question, isn't it?
I was surprised,
Yeah.
like how straightforward. I mean, not all places are like that, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, I've just got myself into a really high-end venue."
Yeah.
Just incredible. Yeah.
It's the determination. My three favorite words that I'm always talking about: determination, perseverance, and resilience. On the back of my door.
Yes.
Yes, you can see them. But it's true, isn't it? As I said previously, you can't just sit there and hope for it to happen.
No.
You've got to go out and make it happen,
Yes.
haven't you? And you are an absolute example of that.
Be
You know,
resourceful
not
and find it and own it. Yeah.
don't just send an email. Go and speak to whoever it is. Whether you're a wedding person or whether you're someone who wants to supply a cafe.
That's exactly
don't
it.
don't just send an email because it'll just go, it'll
Yeah.
be. But if you go into that cafe with the sample of your goods and say,
Yes.
this is what I do, here I am, they're much more likely to engage and take you on, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, like, so people who do like tray bakes or like drip cakes or smaller cakes, absolutely go to cafes, play groups, churches, council. I mean, just show your face, ask them, if you've got any.
Photographers.
Yes. And
The smash
yeah,
cake thing.
yeah,
Personally, I don't like them, but there's lots of photographers that need a cake maker
yes.
to do the smash cakes, isn't there? Yeah.
And drop your business cards. Say, am I able to drop some flyers or business cards, or can I put a flyer on your wall? And you just never know. You never know who's looking. So absolutely, just
It, it
yeah,
it it really is a case of you've got nothing to lose by doing it, haven't you? It's you're not going to lose out. And a flyer with your QR code with your website on um, can absolute work wonders because you never know who's going to pass by and go, oh yeah, we need a cake. That looks really good. You know. So yeah, so brilliant. Lots and lots of tips there. Lots and lots of tips from Ziggy. What's next for you, Ziggy? What are your next plans? What are your plans for
Um,
26?
I think I'm going to do more wedding fairs because it was only this year that I thought actually I can't just rely on birthday cakes or celebration cakes because my designs lend to itself to be really special ones. So I can't really get repeat customers that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, my designs lend itself better to wedding cakes. So I'm gonna do more wedding shows. So I'm been eyeing up a few wedding fairs and shows about an hour or two from home, and I'm gonna have to decide which ones I'm gonna go to and register and book myself on them, and then think about the designs for those kind of venues. So we shall see, and then still work on pricing.
Yes. I
Oh
know, I
God.
know. You know, I'm always talking about pricing, aren't I? In the academy, it's always about the pricing, but it's about pricing confidence. And again, we were chatting before we started recording about pricing and oh, you know, am I in the right kind of ballpark? Am I reasonable? And it really is a case of you price to your skill, to what
Yeah,
you're providing, um, and you've got to stick by your guns, haven't you?
absolutely. And I think there is also always that mental battle. Am I worth it? Yeah, comparing other people, and think, yeah, just, you always question. Well, for me anyway, I always question, what am I doing? And then even if I've decided that this is what I'm going to do, I then still go and doubt myself and like, oh, is this still the right decision? Even though I've narrowed it down to what I feel is most comfortable, but still
Yeah, yeah.
so scary. And yeah,
I think half the problem is that us bakers, we wouldn't pay, you know, £2,000 for a wedding cake.
no.
That's why would I do? Because obviously most of us, you know, we could do it ourselves. Or,
Yeah.
you know, there are various other reasons that we wouldn't dream of spending that. But there are people out there that will pay, you know, 2, 3 thousand and more for something that's highly skilled, which is obviously what you offer. You know, highly skilled, bespoke, exactly what they want, and the levels of service that you can provide as well also add into all that. I mean, there is, you know, a lot of debate, particularly over the last year. Various celebrities have said, "Oh, you know, they triple the price because it's a wedding," but actually, the wedding industry is special because you're dealing with a couple's one and only day and they want to get it right.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
it's the
Hitting it.
levels of service that you provide, you know, color matching and all that kind of stuff. That's what where the price is, isn't it? That's where the charges are. And you have to make sure that you add all that up because you know you don't want to get to the end of the day, deliver your wedding cake, get home and think, well, I've only made 50 quid on that. What was that? What was all that about? You know.
Not worth it. And then you get burnt out and then you resent it. And then, you just
Yeah,
lose the joy out of it. And it's so important to remember, like, why you do what you do. And,
yeah,
you are your boss. I mean, I'm telling myself, really,
yeah,
you
yeah,
are the boss. You call the shots. This is your business, your T's and C's.
yeah,
Um, and if someone else wants to go somewhere else, then let them be, because
yeah,
there is a market for everyone, whether you do tray bakes all the way to towering cakes like the height of Eiffel Tower. I mean, there's a market for everybody,
yeah.
but you just have to not let that get to you of comparisonitis and is this going to work? You just got to price it right and just keep
Yeah.
at it and never give up. I think that's, yeah, just never give up.
Yeah,
I mean, the
you're an
light bulb.
absolute example of that. Yeah, being just keeping on going and contacting people and you know making sure that you're heard really and being proactive.
I
Yeah.
mean, you are your own boss, right? We said this so many times. I mean, it's if no one's going to fight for you, then who else
Yeah.
is,
Well, exactly.
right?
Yeah. If you're not going to fight for yourself, no one else is going to, are they? So you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to put your
I've got to say, being in a community, it really helps because you've got like-minded people who are starting out or who've been there maybe a year or two or more down the line, and being able to share that experience is, is priceless, because all of our stuff is so bespoke.
Mm,
It's so different, so varied, and it varies from council to council, as we
yes.
mentioned earlier. That just little tips of maybe how to even assemble a cake, or how to. For me, I did at the Cake International show the demo of how would you transfer the buttercream flour, onto a freezer safe dish without it flopping, and just little hacks and tips and tricks. They really go a long way. So being a community is a baking community like yours, Annie, is absolutely essential. You wouldn't go to university or school without being amongst other peers, and being, led by someone who's been there and done it. So, it's the same for the baking business as well.
Yeah. Brilliant. Oh, thank you so much for being with me today. Now, if
Yes.
people want to find out more about what you do, Ziggy, where can they find you?
So I am on Instagram and I am on Facebook, and the name is The Flowering Baker, Flowering. So literally like the flower, the
Yeah.
flowering baker. And I've also got a website, so www.thefloweringbaker.co.uk, and you can find me there as
We
well.
will put all that in the show notes. So, we'll put them as links in the show notes so
Brilliant.
people can find you and see the amazing work that you do, because it is just amazing what you do.
So much.
So thank you so much, Ziggy, for chatting with me today. It's been absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.